If we could, let's bring this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission for Thursday, May 9th, 2013. My name is Chris Jordan, and I am the vice chairman. Our chairman will not be here tonight, so I'll be sitting in. So if you would, just bear with me. This is not my normal duties, and I'll do my best. I think the first thing we ought to do is go around and let the members introduce themselves, starting with the council, if we would, please.
Rick Mihalovich, second ward councilman, liaison to the planning and zoning, and then we have a guest today, fourth ward councilman Carlos Graham, as an alternate for this. So,
hi, good evening, everyone.
Dale Vaughn, Chris Yarnell,
Jack Deacon, Dave Nunn,
Ann Strawman,
Dean Dutoy,
Mike Lester,
Kevin Thanen,
Ron Fitzwater,
Shane Wade, city staff.
Eric Barron, city staff.
Janice McMillan.
Jeremy Cober, law department.
Okay, with that, we will move forward. I've been informed that we have a presentation this evening. So I believe Jamie Abbott's here, and we will let her come up.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, I'm Jamie Abbott. I am the Neighborhood Services Coordinator with the city, and this evening I'm going to discuss with you all about the Community Development Block Grant Program. Okay. All right, what is CDBG? CDBG, once again, is the Community Development Block Grant Program. It was authorized by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. The city of Jefferson is what is called an entitlement community. An entitlement community is the entitlement community is for populations of 50,000 or more, or for counties of 200,000 or more population. The grant amounts are determined by two different formulas, whichever is higher, and which is data based on overcrowding and housing, population, and poverty, or on data based on age of housing, population growth, lag, and poverty. So what are the goals of CDBG? CDBG, the first goal is to provide decent housing. Second goal is to create suitable living environment, and the third goal is to expand on economic development opportunities. With the city's program, primarily, we meet the goals of providing decent housing and creating a suitable living environment. Okay, so there's always requirements with every federal program. All projects have to meet a national objective of 51% low to moderate income, elimination of slum and blight, or urgent threat to health and safety. So at least for 51% low to moderate income, or LMI, at least 51% or more of persons and families benefiting must be LMI for public projects and public facilities, and then 100% LMI for housing activities. For the removal of slum and blight national objective, there's two different methods for this objective. This objective is generally used for demolishing of properties, dilapidated properties. The first method is just when a structure itself is blighted, and then there's the second method, which is area blight. Area blight has to, at least 25% of the properties throughout the area must experience one or more of the following conditions, such as physical deterioration, abandonment, chronic high occupancy turnover rates, significant declines in property values, and also known or suspected environmental contamination. And then there's the second criteria of area blight, which is public improvements throughout the area are in general state of deterioration. And then urgent threat, this is, the use of this national objective is rare. It's generally used for activities to alleviate emergency conditions. I won't spend too much time on this, but urgent threat is generally to alleviate conditions that are recent origin or recently became urgent generally within the last 18 months. So like if we had the, God forbid, the Joplin tornado, that would be the urgent threat, national objective. So there's eligible activities. Here is just a breakdown of all the eligible activities. There's, I believe, 66 activities that could be used for the CDBG program. Generally, the popular ones are streets, sidewalks, demolition, lead-based paint, homeowner support programs. There is, of course, ineligible expenses for the CDBG program, such as maintenance or operation costs, which are those costs that recurs on a regular basis, generally with less than 5 years. Then it's considered maintenance. And then government expenses also ineligible, political activities, religious purposes. Moving on. So how does the city currently expend the CDBG money? Currently right now we have a homeowners program, neighborhood improvements, public improvements, and homeless prevention. Within the homeowner program we have the code efficiency, energy efficiency, down payment assistance, and emergency assistance program. These programs, we generally do a $1,000 grant and then a $4,000 loan. For 5 years, after 5 years, the loan is forgiven. For neighborhood improvements, currently right now we have are using it for demolition of residential homes, and such as Mulberry Street is a flood buyout. And then for public improvements, we generally do the sidewalk repairs. Homeless prevention, right now we're doing bus passes. Not sure if you could see the accomplishments there. I have for the last 4 years, from 2009 to 2012. In 2009, over there on the far right, the city had received a total allocation of $320,518 during that year. The city had completed 15 code efficiency projects, 2 down payment assistance, 2 emergency repairs, 1 demolition, and revitalization of the old Munichburg commercial area. In 2010, HUD had allocated $350,000, and within that year, 17 code deficiencies, energy efficiency program was introduced, and 1 project was completed, 1 down payment assistance, 1 acquisition, and 4 public improvement projects were completed. And then 2011, you can see the funds go down even more, or actually go down for the first time. Funds were $290,150. And then that year, 12 code efficiency, 1 energy efficiency program, 1 down payment, 2 accessibility ADA projects were completed, 3 emergency repairs, 2 demolitions, infrastructure improvements, and bus passes were handed out. And then for 2012, funds of an amount of $227,982 was allocated. 11 code efficiency and energy efficiency programs, 1 down payment assistance, 5 emergency repairs, and 4 demolition projects were taking place. I don't have 2013 funds up there. Currently, we have not received notice of funding due to sequestration. But I'm hoping to get our funding announcement any day now. Those right now are, those pictures up on the screen are current or past CDBG projects. Right there is the old Munichburg. It's my understanding that funds were used for that area. This is an energy efficiency house. This is Mulberry Street. We're hoping to have a demolition taking place sometime this summer. And this is the Old Town Revitalization Companies. This is where they use for their meeting space. I believe it's called Common Ground. And then here's a demolition project on 614 East McCarty Street that is being proposed currently. And then this is an old Munichburg sign, which you can't really see well on the screen. Okay, can changes be made to the program, how it's currently, funds are being currently spent? And the answer is yes. By completing the consolidated plan and the annual action plan helps the city determine what activities to fund in the coming year. The consolidated plan is 5 years in length and describes the community needs, resources, priorities, and proposed activities to be undertaken with the program. Each year, the city must submit an update to HUD referred to the action plan, and the action plan describes the specific plan uses. So we're coming up on our next 5-year consolidated plan. So we're having our first of 2 public hearings in June, on June 10th, from 3 to 5. And at this public hearing, I will be asking individuals to complete a need assessment survey. After this public hearing, and after the needs assessment surveys are submitted and compiled, we'll complete our completion plan, and then we'll hold a second public hearing in September. After September, there's a 30-day comment period for the public to issue any comments for, support, or against, and then the plan is due to HUD by November 15th. If you guys have any questions, I'll be willing to answer them. I knew I just threw a bunch of information at you all. Yes?
When you talk about like projects the city will do as far as like curb and gutter, and right?
Correct.
And can't neighborhoods get together and put their money together to try to get those projects through the city? Is that right, or does the city choose? Because I live on Morrill Drive, and I'd really like to see the city do that.
Well, I mean, that's where the actual action plan comes in. We propose what projects we're going to do. The curb and gutter, I mean, it has to meet the low to moderate income benefit of at least 51%.
Sure.
So
and that means the homeowners have to be within that income?
Correct. It has to be within a HUD's specified income limits per the household, and there's census tracts that is already out there that shows what areas of Jefferson City is 51%, or a survey can be completed to determine a specified area, to determine whether or not the area is considered 51% LMI.
And you're talking about property owners?
Property owners, correct.
Okay, not people that actually live there. I mean, what if you had a street
Gotcha.
that was all rental property?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are correct. It would also include the rental properties as well, the income of the area. So it's based off of the it's actually based off the 2000 census and not the 2010.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have one question for you. I know you said in the last couple of years that the funding has decreased quite a bit, which obviously limits the amount of projects that you can do.
Correct.
Do you have any idea of where they're headed for? I mean, obviously, you said you don't know, but
Yeah.
do you have any idea of what they're projecting?
I know that HUD has announced nationwide Cdbg project funding will go down by 5%. How it would impact us is based on our formula that HUD has determined, and it's I'm personally projecting on the worst side for this year. Last year, from 2011 to 2012, there was a 22% decrease. I'm assuming that this year will be at 200,000. Worst case scenario, I'm hoping.
Okay. Any other questions for Jamie?
Yes, you said you're doing bus passes.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? How are these distributed?
Currently, how they're distributed is local nonprofits who may contact our office and request a bus pass. They have to keep on file within their organization the income limits to determine the low to moderate income need, And then internally, we sign off on the bus passes that it was released to, for example, CMCA. Thanks.
Any other questions? Jamie, thank you for taking
right.
your time and
Thank you.
visiting with us tonight. And obviously, your information's up there if anybody in the audience or watching on TV tonight would like to contact you. So appreciate that. All right. We ready to move forward? With that, I think we'll go ahead and move forward with the meeting this evening. Procedural matters. The city code authorizes 9 regular members and 3 alternates. The alternates are designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of a regular member. A quorum of 5 members or alternates is necessary to conduct business. And I do believe we have quorum tonight. I think we're going to have 6 regular members here this evening, and then the 2 alternates can vote. We will be missing Bob George, who is a regular member tonight, and Bonnie Tricky Cotton, who's an alternate. So everyone here tonight will be voting. Is there any members here tonight that are going to disqualify themselves from any agenda items? Seeing none, everyone will be voting. The voting members are as followed: Jack Deacon, Dean Dutoy. We're not going to have Bob George. Michael Lester, David Nunn, Dale Vaughn, Chris Charnell, Kevin Thanen, and Ron Fitzwater. All right. I'm going to call for cases. If there is someone here that's going to be speaking for those cases, if you'd just raise your hand so that we know that we have someone here to represent that. Case number P13006, 216 El Mercado Plaza, an amendment for a preliminary PUD plan. Is there someone here to speak for that? You're here, okay. You're fine, you're fine. Case number 13007, 1206 Boonville Road is annexation. That's a city.
Yes, that's a city, and I'll represent that.
Okay. And then last but not least, case number 13008, 720 East High Street. It's a final subdivision plat for Trolley Square subdivision. Yes, we have representation. Okay. Have we received any requests for continuances?
No.
Okay. Eric, if you would, then please read the format of the hearing and order of testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the Planning Commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so I ask that when you speak, please step to the microphone and give your name and address for the record. After a brief introduction by city staff, the applicant and applicant's consultants and advisors will explain the project, and the opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes. We will then ask to hear from any supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from any opponents of the request, and we will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. And then city staff will then describe the proposal and make the recommendation on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, reference to printed material, including staff reports, applicable findings, ordinances, and/or statutes, shall not be read into the record unless directed by the commission. And the commission will then close testimony from the floor, and the commission will then discuss the proposal and then make a motion on the request. And the form of the motion shall be positive. That is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. And a final vote will then be taken, ayes in favor, nays opposed. And the chairman shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against. The following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting: the city code as amended, the comprehensive plan and land use map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of the public notice in the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and our renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, the staff reports, the minutes of proceedings, letters, photos, memoranda, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, and the rules of procedure for the Jefferson City, Missouri Planning and Zoning Commission. These items are public record and are available for inspection in the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. And please be advised that any items that are presented or otherwise received pertaining to the cases under consideration become the property of the Planning Commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, renderings, petitions, and letters.
Okay, thank you, Eric. With that, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. If I would, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as printed or reordered.
I so move that we adopt the agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have approval of the minutes from the April 11th meeting. We are going to have an amendment to those. It was brought to our attention that Dean Dutoy was placed on there as voting, and he was not there that evening. So other than that, we don't know of any corrections or anything. So if you guys want to take a quick second to look through it, and then we will approve those, if so be, with an amendment to that. And Ann said she would fix that before she sends it up to City Council. I'll entertain a motion if anybody's ready.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor? All opposed? We'll have Ann make that correction and send it up to City Council. Has there been any communications received regarding any requests tonight, Eric?
There was one item of correspondence that should be included in your packet. Basically a short note written at the bottom of a copy of a notification letter.
Okay. We did receive a written correspondence back regarding case number P13006, 216 El Mercado Plaza, and that was a correspondence received from Mr. Larry Cobb. He was suggesting approval of that request. Everybody's got a copy of that. New business and public hearings. I guess we will start with our first case number. All right, we will start with case number P13006, the amended preliminary PUD plan for 216 El Mercado Plaza. Eric, I think if you'll give us your staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. First, to orient you to the location of this request, up on a map, the screen is a map of the area. We're basically over by the Capitol Mall. And I apologize for the map. In the very, very top left-hand corner is Truman Boulevard, and you can see Hy-Vee right down here in the Capitol Mall parking lot. There's a nice little business neighborhood back there along Amazonas Drive, and the new YMCA West facility is here to the right. There's a short cul-de-sac named El Mercado Plaza, and there's actually 3 different buildings owned by the same property owner on that cul-de-sac. 2 of the buildings are occupied currently by Metro Business College, and the 3rd building right here is currently vacant, although I think it's being used for storage for a local business. But this request is, or the property is actually got a zoning line going through the property, but is basically half zoned PUD, planned unit development, and half zoned C1 neighborhood commercial. But for the purposes of the request, it's basically a PUD plan. It's an amended preliminary PUD plan. There has been a number of other PUD plans on this particular building. The zoning history within the staff report gives a bit of the history behind the building. It was formerly occupied by the state several years ago, and the state vacated the building. And then the property owner brought forward a request to locate a commercial laundry facility in the building. That was approved, but the building was never actually converted to that use. And then the current request is to locate a private school, to convert the building into a private school. and to add a building addition onto the building as well to support that use. This is a fairly recent air photo of the building. Here's the El Mercado cul-de-sac. It's got a fairly good sized parking lot, and the building's in the shape of a U with a nice little courtyard. The plan for the property is to demolish a portion of the building just to the north side of the U, basically just a short strip, roughly about to where my mouse is, across the top of that courtyard, and then to construct a gymnasium within that courtyard that would take up the entire courtyard. And then here is a copy of the PUD plan. You can kind of see that the U-shaped building with the hole in the U, the courtyard being filled in with a gymnasium, and then the room, the existing building being converted into classrooms. And a few extra parking spots would be striped. There would be some lost, possibly because of, or most likely because of the construction of the gymnasium. And this is a closer view of the floor plan, which could change slightly as it evolves. But generally speaking, there'd be the major portion of the plan is to construct the gymnasium. And then also a building elevation that gives an idea of what the gymnasium would look like along with the rest of the building. I do have one picture of the building. This is a current picture where you can see the courtyard with the 2 trees in it. The staff analysis goes through a number of different things such as parking, permitted uses for the property, building design, and signage. As far as parking goes, we feel that the parking requirement would be met by the existing parking lot, even with the loss of several spaces due to the construction of the gymnasium. That's based on parking requirements for schools in the current zoning code. Regarding permitted uses, we'd basically be adding the private school to the list of already permitted uses that are on the property. And then the signage would conform to the current sign code for property zone C1. I don't think there's any intention to have an excess of signage on the property. I believe that's all I have for now. I'd be happy to answer any initial questions.
Eric, real quick, I was reading through your information regarding it, and if I remember correctly, we have seen this property recently when they came before us for a laundry facility or cleaning facility. Is that correct?
Yes.
To refresh everyone on the commission with that. I guess from the information that we have here tonight, that operation is not there.
No, I believe that the intended tenant is using some of the building for storage, but would likely be vacating that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Very good.
I have a quick question, and Mr. Bates will probably end up answering this, but being the fact that it's a cul-de-sac and this building is at the end, how many students are going to be attending this facility? And my question is because there's going to be students, there's going to be a lot of parents probably picking kids up, and that there's a community college right next door to it, is that going to cause any kind of traffic issue or backing up into, the main roads or anything like that?
It is a fairly small school. The numbers that I have, are in within the staff report. About 45 high school age students. We do have there is a representative from the school that might be able to give a little bit more light on that.
Sure.
I don't anticipate it being a problem in terms of traffic. The number of students is just too small.
Sure. It won't be like any school buses showing up or.
No, it's.
Because it doesn't look like there's really any turnaround spot within the parking lot in order to accommodate that.
No, I don't believe. I mean, the community college set up beside, to the east there, I would anticipate would have a higher level of traffic. And not only that, the community college, Metro Business College, is more of a nighttime oriented use, whereas this is the daytime, so they won't necessarily be occurring at the same time.
Okay.
So.
Any other commission members have a question for city staff at this point? Mr. Bates, if you'd like to come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Eric has done an excellent job of introducing the topic. We've provided two visuals, essentially a personal copy of the aerial photography with the building footprint. It shows the revised classrooms and the common area that would be used for recreation, and then the second copy is without the aerial photography. I think it was a good question by Mr. Vaughn. There are, right now, we believe there are 85 full-time students. The grades are 6 through 12. We normally see that somewhere in the sophomore year, transitioning into potential drivers. The present location has not created any problems. Obviously, they're hoping for some growth. In addition to that, Lighthouse Preparatory Academy is a combination of homeschooling, parent schooling, as well as classroom experience. So it's a unique situation. This building has been vacant for some time. As Eric indicated, the laundry or cleaning business was hoping for a substantial contract that they didn't receive, thus they didn't proceed with this. This is another example of our shrinking state government in our community, where we've had buildings left around the community as they've reduced their staff. They've moved into more central facilities. So we're excited to find that there's a good adaptive reuse for this. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. The parking, we actually have additional space on the property if the immediate parking would be a problem. So I think Mr. Rockers is here with BRM, and we have a representative from Lighthouse Preparatory if there'd be any questions of them. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions for Mr. Bates from the commission members or the group that's here? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone present in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this request? If so, please come up and give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Gerard Rockers with BRM Ownership Group. Just to address that question, there are very few students that are driving. There are about, I think, approximately 5 to 6 maybe that actually would drive a car. Is that about right?
I'm not sure. That sounds about right.
And then 7 or 8 cars that would be staff members also. So the kind of the plan was to put that they would park up against the building, and we would have a flow coming down and to the west, and then they would turn around here where the turnaround was for the dock over here and the trucks. Right, so they come through here, they'd pick up, and then they'd circle around. During the day, there shouldn't be, too many cars around.
Yeah, and I wasn't really I wasn't concerned about the high school people, but just the parents coming to pick their kids up, the flow of traffic through that parking lot where they would actually turn around.
Right. Well, they'll come around.
Yeah, go ahead.
Metro is generally out at about 2:30 every day, so it's pretty much a ghost town over there at that time, and then they utilize the side parking. They'll come in about 5 o'clock in the day. So I think it should work out pretty well that's our preliminary plan of pickup.
I'm sure if you get into it and it wasn't adequate, there's probably room to make a different turnaround spot, like, to the east or something like that.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah, that's there, that would be the ground to the east there that, I think there's a detention basin there that we'd have to work around with the city staff.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Rockers while he's up? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that's present like to speak on this request? If so, please give your name and address for the record.
My name is Andy Bashuk. Address is 321 Sterling Price Road, Jefferson City. I am a parent of students, and I am the secretary on the school board of Lighthouse, and I just want to speak in favor of this. We are a growing school, and we're at capacity of our current location. So we've been shopping for quite some time, and this is a unique need that we have to stay within city limits and have our students and our school grow here. So we've been at work for this for quite a while, and this seems to be nearly perfect for us and meet a lot of our needs. We are a unique school. We're not in class every day. Tuesdays and Thursdays, the kids are at home. So that's it, short and sweet.
Any other questions for Andy? Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? If so, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Seeing none. We will close testimony, and if city staff will give their recommendations through staff reports.
Thank you. The recommendation, as you'll see in the staff report, is for approval. A private school would be compatible with the commercial nature of this area. And the recommended form of motion is a motion for approval of the preliminary PUD plan amendment with the following conditions. A, permitted uses of the property shall be limited to offices, post-secondary education facilities, commercial laundry facilities, and private schools. And that's the current list of items that are permitted for the property with the addition of the private school. And then B, signage shall be in accordance with requirements for properties zoned C1. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Does any of the commission members have a question for Eric or city staff? Shane, do you have anything that you need to report on? Okay. Okay. Any questions of city staff? Seeing none, would someone like to take a stab at a motion this evening?
I'd move that we approve the motion and in the form that based on the planning staff report dated May 9th, under the staff recommendation and form of the motion, item 1, A and B, regarding permitted uses and signage, that the motion follow those requirements.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We go to city council? This will go to city council for further review, but Planning and Zoning Commission has approved it at this point. Okay.
And that public hearing in front of the city council will be on June 17th at 6 o'clock p.m. in this room.
We will continue on. Our next case is case P13007, 1206 Boonville Road, the voluntary annexation and zoning plan. Eric or Janice, are you all going to do that?
I'll present it. The first to orient you to the location of this request. Up on the screen is a location map. You'll see Highway 179 here to the bottom left. If you're familiar with the railroad crossing, this is at the far north side of the city as you're basically headed toward Boonville on Highway 179. There's the railroad crossing just before you start to exit the city limits. Boonville Road also intersects Highway 179 in this area. this piece of property, the yellow line across the map is the current city boundaries. And this piece of property is located adjacent to the city boundaries. It's basically bottomland, is subject to flooding within the floodplain, and then also is on the other side of the railroad tracks. The way you actually get to the property would be off of Boonville Road. There's a driveway with an older residence and a gravel driveway, I believe, that goes across the railroad tracks, and that's how you get to the property. Consists of just under 5 acres. The city owns it, purchased it in conjunction with a sewer main sewer improvement plan to provide sewer main access to another Missouri River crossing, correct? There is, well, first there's that's the current zoning map for the area. It's a kind of a multitude of different zoning districts. Single family residential, RS2. There is some PUD zoning, some manufacturing zoning in the area, and then also some RC, which is a conservation zoning. A lot of areas that are subject to flooding in the city have been zoned RC, that conservation district. It also allows for farming. And that's actually the district that we're proposing for this property to be zoned. What's actually being presented to you is not anything to do with the annexation. It's merely to assign the zoning for the property. The annexation will be decided on by the city council, but the zoning recommendation comes from this body, and we are recommending a zoning of RC that would allow for an agricultural use. And that's what it's being used for right now. I actually have one picture from the property. You'll see that there's, in addition to some soon to be installed in the ground sewer pipes, there's a barn on the property. And we anticipate that the future use of the property would be agricultural in nature. And the RC zoning would allow for that. And I think that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any initial questions. This is a public hearing item, so members of the public are able to speak if they wish. Yes, that's correct. The creek, which is kind of in between the intersection of Boonville Road and the railroad tracks, basically travels up this way along my mouse and then runs along the property here and then on down. And then this item right here is a levee. But no, the river is quite a ways away to the northeast. The city actually owns a couple others that are already within the city limits. Oh, no, outside the city? No, this is the only one. The city owns this property right here, which is used to get to that one, and then also owns, and let me get off the zoning map here, but it's kind of hard to see the faint gray lines, but you'll see this property right here is owned by the city.
Is there any other questions for Eric or city staff regarding this request? Okay, is there anyone in attendance here this evening that would like to speak on this request? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. No one is present, excuse me. Yeah. I will now close testimony, and Eric, I'll let you finish up your staff report.
Very briefly, as I mentioned earlier, the recommendation from staff is for an RC conservation zoning assignment for the property. The recommended form of motion is approval of the zoning plan for the property to be zoned RC conservation. be happy to answer any other questions.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Eric or staff? Seeing none, we will continue forward and look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the recommendation in the form as stated by Mr. Barron.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion approves. Eric, I'm assuming that will go to city council and have another public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. We will move on to our last agenda item this evening, which is case number P13008, 720 East High Street for a final subdivision plat of Trolley Square subdivision. Eric, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Up on the screen is a location map showing this property outlined in yellow. This is kind of in the downtown area. You'll see Lafayette Street over here on the side, and East High Street and Cherry Street. So this is the 700 block of East High Street. What this request is it's a final subdivision plat, but it's only a one-lot subdivision. It's to combine two lots into one, and currently the only way that our the way to do that within our code is to do an actual subdivision plat to take those two lots and combine them into one. The purpose of the request is to take an existing single-family home, and you can see the single-family home there on the air photo, and build an accessory structure, a garage, basically right next to it, in a now vacant lot. There used to be a structure there that was demolished, and so the property owner who owns both of these lots wants to combine them in order to allow that lot to be used in conjunction with the single-family home. So the property owner has a subdivision plat prepared. I'm sorry. And this is it. It's a one-lot subdivision. I mean, the property consists of about a third of an acre, and passage of the subdivision plat would allow for the property owner to construct a garage on the property. And the property owner's actually given an example of what would be constructed, in keeping with the historic nature of that area. The design of the garage is really needs to reflect the existing architectural styles in the area, and so something along the lines of a carriage house is, I think, what she intends to build. And again, this is just an example. You'll see through my staff report the typical things that are addressed in a subdivision plat. There's obviously no streets being platted, and sidewalks already exist on the property. Under the recommendation, there's a couple of things. Some of those are standard for our subdivision plats. 3 different recommendations to include in the approval. The first one, compliance with comments and technical corrections of the engineering division. As is typical with plats, we have a number of minor corrections that we send back to the consultant, and are still in the process of getting that finalized. Number 2, establishment of both properties under the same ownership name. They're both owned by the same person, but they're under different, basically different company names. I think that was inadvertent, but they both do need to be under the same name in order for them to be formally combined into one. And it's my understanding that that has already occurred. It's just a matter of the paperwork is in the process of being filed, or may have already been filed with the county recorder's office to accomplish that. And then 3, finalization of the plat prior to introduction to the city council, which is what we require for any plat. That being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on the plat.
I have one quick question, then I'll turn over the rest of the commissioners. By doing this, we're creating one lot, so it would abolish the existing underlying lots, so that 5 years, 10 years from now, when this structure's up, someone inadvertently wouldn't sell these separately and then cause a whole lot of problems. Is that?
That is correct, and I apologize if I didn't explain that clearly. The purpose is exactly that, so that someone could not sell off the lot with just a garage on it, and have that garage being used in some other purpose than what it was originally constructed and approved for. It's so that it would forever be tied to the residential structure.
Last question, and obviously we're here to deal with the subdivision plat and not the character of the neighborhood and the type of building and all that, and I think it's great that you're working with the applicants about that. My question was the garage doors to be facing the public street, or are they going to be facing the rear of the lot to be accessed off the alley, or don't know?
The garage actually would be constructed with the intention of it facing the street. The topography of the lot is such that it'd be very difficult to locate the garage elsewhere. And I think the actual tenant of the residential structure being a handicap type of a tenant basically needs that arrangement in order for it to function properly.
Very good. Any other commissioners have questions for staff at this point?
I have a question, and it may not amount to anything. The existing interior lot line that splits the two of them, are there any easements that are out there?
That's one item that we look at on a plat. It's my understanding there are none, but no, there are none shown on the plat. So, and that's pretty standard in the older sections of the city. I think we only started platting easements along lot lines. They didn't do it a whole lot in the old parts of town.
I know that it's not uncommon.
Yes, you're correct.
I assume that'll be researched at some point, though.
Yeah, on the plat, and there's nothing on the plat showing that. So,
just out of curiosity, is the carriage house going to be like placed right in the middle of the lot line, or is it like one side or?
I believe that it would be slightly off center, but would basically take up almost the entire frontage. I mean, the lot's not very wide, so.
Is the intention to have a living unit above the garage?
No, I don't believe it. No.
Any other questions for city staff at this point?
Yes, what would be the allowed setback from the frontage?
The setback would be allowed at the same building line as the two structures the adjacent structures. So the setback could be actually combined them right along there. You'll see that on the plat, the surveyor has put a 25-foot building setback line. We're actually in our red line comments back to the surveyor, we're having them remove that because it's not accurate. The setback for this street is the average of the existing setbacks, and so this garage could be placed in line with those two buildings, and can be, or anywhere behind that. And to address Mr. Lester's question,
only if there's going to be a parking pad in front of it, then it'd have to set back.
yes, that's correct. Enough space for a vehicle to be able to set there and not hang over onto the sidewalk. To address Mr. Lester's point, the example there, I think, is just an example, and I think this example does have a living unit above it, but no, when this was given to me, it was actually stated that no, there would not be a living unit above that. So, thank you. No.
Is there any other questions for city staff at this point? Okay, seeing none, if the applicant would please come forward and give your name and address for the record, please. And tell us anything you'd like to tell us.
Donna Dietz, 620 East High. And we've been working on the east side. I don't know if you're familiar. We've fixed up already 620 East High, 712, 716, and this is a combination of 718 and 720. We're actually, my husband and I and my mom and dad are actually moving into this. It's going to be our residence. And what Eric alluded to with the handicap is for my dad to be able to access that. As far as the drawing, Eric said give an example, and that's the only one I could find, quite honestly, without paying the architect to design it before we got to those specifications. Trying to think if there's any other questions you had that I can answer for you. Yes, it's been very busy. Yeah, and we had to come up with a name for it, so that's how it got the Trolley Square subdivision.
Is there any other questions for Ms. Dietz regarding the request? Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor of this request? If so, please come forward. Seeing none. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Seeing none. At this point, we will close testimony. And Eric, if you would finish up your staff report, and Shane or any other staff members have anything?
I'll let Shane go first.
Thank you, Eric. At this point, we would also recommend approval of the final plat subject to, as Eric indicated, minor technical corrections to the plat. There is existing infrastructure that serves this property. No additional improvements to the infrastructure are being proposed with the subdivision. That would be all I have.
Yes, and the staff recommendation is for approval of the final subdivision plat subject to the following. 1, compliance with the comments and technical corrections to the engineering division. 2, establishment of both properties under the same ownership name. And 3, finalization of the plat prior to introduction to the city council. Be happy to answer any additional questions.
Ms. Dietz, are you okay with all of the recommendations and issues that you need to finish up with staff?
Yeah, and as Eric alluded to, we've already switched the name, so that's all fine.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Does any commissioners have any further questions of city staff? Seeing none, I will move forward for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the final subdivision plat subject to the following. 1, compliance with the with the comments and technical corrections of the engineering division. 2, establishment of both properties under the same ownership name. And 3, finalization of plat prior to introduction to city council.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any comments or suggestions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me. It will be forwarded to the city council. Eric, that date will be?
Be June 17th. So.
Okay. Thank you for coming tonight. Other business. Michael, do you have anything for us on the Environmental Quality Commission?
Just that we continue to work on the Make Your Mark informational campaign about recycling opportunities in the city. And we also passed a resolution endorsing a shared road bicycle route for Jefferson City. That's all of my report.
Well, once again, we always thank you for taking your time and doing that for us, and greatly appreciated. Anyone else have anything they need to bring up this evening? With that, we will declare the meeting adjourned.